Iran just hit another ship in the Strait of Hormuz. If that's true, it's not another headline. It's another rung on a ladder that the global economy can't afford to climb. Because Hormuz isn't just a map detail, it's a pressure valve for the entire world. And when ships start getting hit in that corridor, the market doesn't wait for perfect confirmation. It reprices risk immediately through insurance, freight rates, delays, reroutes, and panic buying of prompt cargoes. So let's walk through what we actually know, what's being claimed, and what this means next, without letting fear write the ending. Here's the most important point up front. A ship hit is rarely just about the ship. The real damage is what it does to confidence. Confidence is what keeps tankers moving. Confidence is what keeps insurers underwriting routes. Confidence is what keeps oil flowing like a routine, because oil is not only about production, it's about delivery, and delivery is what breaks first. Now, what's being reported? Over the past week, there's been credible reporting that multiple commercial vessels were attacked in or near Hormuz. Oil tankers struck, a container ship hit, and a growing pattern of disruption that has pushed traffic down sharply as war risk coverage gets pulled and ships hold offshore. We've also seen claims and reports that another vessel was struck by a drone in the strait and set on fire, described as another ship violating rules being hit. That specific another ship wording is circulating through outlets that are quoting local reporting and Telegram-style updates, which is exactly why you should treat the details carefully until more independent confirmation converges. But here's the trap. Even if the details are still stabilizing, the broader reality is already visible. Shipping through Hormuz is being choked, not necessarily by a formal closure, but by risk that becomes impossible to price. And when the market can't price risk, it doesn't ship. It pauses. That pause is the real weapon, because a missile doesn't need to sink a supertanker to cause a global shock. It only needs to make enough owners, captains, and insurers say, "Not today." Now, let's talk about the three versions of this story you're going to see everywhere tonight, because they each serve a different emotional purpose. Version 1. Iran is sinking everything. That version wants panic. Version 2. Nothing happened, it's all propaganda. That version wants complacency. Version 3, the useful one, is even limited attacks can freeze the lane. That third version is the one that matches how modern maritime crises actually work. Because the Strait of Hormuz doesn't need to be permanently closed, it only needs to be intermittently unsafe and intermittently uninsurable. That's enough to create a permanent risk premium. And if you're wondering why this keeps escalating, here's the logic. Attacking shipping in Hormuz is one of the most efficient ways to export pain globally without having to win a conventional war. It hits four targets at once. It hits energy prices, it hits insurance markets, it hits shipping schedules, and it hits politics, because voters feel fuel prices faster than they understand geopolitics. Now here's what another ship hit changes in the psychology of the lane. The first attack is a shock. The second attack is a warning. The third attack becomes a pattern, and patterns change behavior more than single events. A one-off can be dismissed as an anomaly. A pattern becomes a new operating environment. That's why another ship matters, even if it's just one. Now, let's make this real. When a ship is attacked in Hormuz, three things happen almost instantly behind the scenes. First, war risk insurance either gets pulled or repriced upward so violently that it becomes commercially irrational to transit. Second, ship owners start holding outside the strait, waiting for escorts, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone else to go first. Third, charterers, companies that hire ships, start bidding up for alternative routes, alternative grades, and near-term barrels because nobody wants to be caught short. That's how the system breaks, not by running out of oil, but by running out of predictable delivery. And that's exactly why you're seeing such intense attention on another ship. because every additional incident shrinks the space where insurers and shipping companies can pretend this is manageable. Now, you've probably heard people say, okay, but the US Navy can just protect the ships. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Naval protection helps, but it doesn't magically remove risk. Escorts can deter some attacks, they can reduce the probability of a hit, they can improve response time, but they don't eliminate mines, they don't eliminate drones. They don't eliminate the possibility of a single leaker, one strike that gets through, and in shipping, you don't need many strikes. One high visibility hit can be enough to freeze traffic for days. That's why even rumors move markets. Now let's talk about blackout effects, because people hear shipping attacks and assume the only consequence is oil prices. No, the consequences ripple outward fast. A disruption in Hormuz does three global things immediately. It raises the cost of everything that moves. It increases inflation pressure globally, and it forces governments into emergency messaging, because energy is political oxygen. We've already seen credible reporting describing severe disruption risk around Hormuz, affecting a major share of global seaborne oil and LNG, with knock-on impacts to facilities and exports across the region. And you don't need a long closure to feel it. Even a short disruption creates a backlog, and backlogs create price spikes. Now here's the key thing most people miss. The market is not trading today's oil. It's trading the next 30 days of uncertainty. That's why the phrase "another ship" matters more than a single ship, because it shifts probability. Probability is what markets price. Now, let's talk about the information war. In a maritime conflict, the information battle is almost as important as the physical battle. You'll see old videos reposted as new, you'll see unrelated fires labeled Hormuz, you'll see ship photos mismatched with dates. So how do you stay grounded? Three signals, and these are the only ones that matter. Signal 1. UKMTO-style reporting and credible maritime security channels converge on an incident. Signal 2. Independent outlet convergence on vessel identity, location, and type of damage. Signal 3. Behavior changes, traffic drops, insurers pull cover, and ship queues grow. Because in shipping, behavior is the truth. A fake story can trend for hours. A real disruption changes routing for weeks. Now, let's assume for a moment that this "another ship hit" is accurate. What happens next? There are three realistic paths. Path 1. The lane becomes stop-start. Traffic moves in bursts, then stops again. Owners wait for escorts. Insurers rewrite terms. Some ships risk it, others don't. In this path, the world pays a risk tax every day. Path 2. Escalation in the gray zone. More drones, more mystery incidents, more GPS jamming, more confusion about attribution. This is the most likely path because it's deniable, and it keeps pressure high without forcing a single dramatic act like a declared closure. Path 3. A single catastrophic incident. This is the nightmare scenario, a major tanker event, a large fire, casualties, or a prolonged blockade effect. That's when governments move from statements to emergency programs, escort coalitions, reserve releases, emergency rationing language. Now here's the most important strategic point. If Iran, or any actor, wants leverage, Hormuz is leverage. Because it's not just an oil lane, it's a bargaining chip. The more the world feels that lane is unstable, the more every diplomatic conversation gets forced to include one phrase: safe passage. And once safe passage becomes the centerpiece, the side threatening the lane gains a seat at the table, sometimes without winning anything else. That is the core logic of Hormuz pressure. Now, I want to address the emotional line everyone will be tempted to say. This means the Strait of Hormuz is permanently broken. Permanent is usually wrong, but sticky risk premium is realistic. Once insurers, crews, and owners live through a threat spike, they don't forget it the next day. They demand more money. They demand more protections. They demand stricter terms. That keeps costs higher long after the missiles stop. So even if this conflict cools later, the risk premium can linger, because memory becomes pricing. Now, let's bring it back to the headline. Iran just hit another ship. Whether this specific incident is confirmed in every detail right now or not, the larger pattern is what should have your attention. This is a shipping confidence crisis, and shipping confidence is what keeps global energy stable. If you want one sentence to remember, make it this: the world doesn't need Hormuz to close. It only needs Hormuz to become intermittently uninsurable. That's how you get the same outcome: higher prices, delayed deliveries, and political shock, without a formal blockade. Now, here are the two questions that matter tonight if you want to understand what happens next. Question 1: does traffic through the strait continue to collapse, or does it rebound? Question 2: does war risk insurance return, or does it stay withdrawn? Because oil can fall tomorrow and the crisis can still be alive, if ships aren't moving, and ships are the truth. Finally, I want your take. Do you think the goal here is physical damage, actually sinking ships? Or is the real goal psychological and economic, making the lane feel too dangerous to use so the world pays a fear tax?